Why am I going to work with Dave over Sally? They both can do the same thing. They both can get you to your goal, but why would I want to work with someone over somebody else? It could be the relationship, the rapport you build. I feel clients are coming. I'm like, you don't have, there's no any obligation to sign up. Let's just see if we work well together. Let's see if we build a rapport. We have a relationship. If it's just really awkward when they're in silence and both people are looking at each other, you're like, yes, this probably won't work.
You can always tell when the connection and the vibe isn't quite there. You're doing that first session with that person, and they're either really sort of like buying into everything that you're doing with them, and you're getting into some deeper conversations, or it's like you're potentially getting a lot of resistance, or they're not opening up too much, and that whole thing of like, there is no such thing as like the best personal trainer or
Yeah,
this is the best person to work with. That personal relationship part of
huge. Yeah.
it's like, it's about 80% of it, right?
Says it in the name, personal
Personal
training. Yeah.
trainer, and like 20% of it is the actual training part. And that part is super important. Don't get me wrong. Like, I've, for me, it's kind of been like 100%, and I'm probably the same for you, right? And every other personal trainer who's like just so focused on the training part that you almost overlook how important it is that this person actually likes you. Because if they don't like you, and they don't like, necessarily feel warm towards you, they tend not to trust you. And then it's very frustrating when they go online and they come across like influencers and this and that, and they like those people and they like their content, and then they really buy into everything that they're saying, and then they come into the session and they're like, oh, what about this and what about that, and you kind of know where it's coming from. And it's like, oh, this is annoying. But I learned, it took me a long time to really appreciate building connections with people. And again, I'd probably mentioned this before in previous episodes, but I have been notoriously bad at not letting people in. Like, my walls are up. Like, what are you up to this weekend? Nothing. Like, that's not a relevant conversation. All right, next set. Instead of allowing a little bit of space for that human interaction.
I think every PT's done that. When I first started, I remember one conversation with a client. She was like, "You're very serious. Like you don't like very straight face. You don't smile. Like don't joke." And I'm just very set. Okay, yeah, tempo. Go slower. Go slower. And she'd ask me something. I'm like, 60 seconds up. Okay, back it again.
Yeah.
Now I can actually have a conversation. Oh, it's 70 seconds have gone. Nothing's going to happen. You're not going to lose your efficiency in the workout. You're not going to not build any muscle or get to your goal. But building relationships is important, especially if you're trying to, again, most clients will probably stay with you like long term. You may get some that dip in and out because they have a specific goal, like
Yeah.
a wedding, a holiday, whatever it may be. But for the most part, it's all about relationships, because sometimes clients will come to me and they'll be very nervous and very like, or they look around like, oh, I don't know what to do in the gym, and there's so many people around and they just want to sit in one corner and just do that. And then you assume, and I automatically assume, they're just nervous, they're shy. I'm not going to go and berate them and scream at them. You get some people, PTs, who'll do that. I'm just like, okay, cool. Let's just stick to one corner. Let's just slowly build your
Yeah.
confidence up. Let's slowly get you back into the gym. I've had one client who signed up with me last year. She was very nervous. She was just didn't like the gym, tried things in the past, didn't work, and she was just like in the corner in the gym and going like, you could see it in her eyes going, I got to do a TRX, so just a TRX row, and she just was doing it, just like was shaking. I was like, oh, what's gonna happen? I might fall, and then like, fast forward 6 months, she's doing stuff in the gym, she's comfortable, she goes in and warms up by herself, she does stuff by herself at home. At first, she was just like looking around, and her eyes are like a bit shaky and nervous, and you can like tell in body language. And then she was like really good because she started building more trust and more as the rapport increased, and our relationships are a lot better. We can talk about stuff, what you are doing this weekend, what are you doing, all that kind of stuff. Like, and we talk about TV shows and stuff. But at first, it was more so me getting her comfortable to be in a situation or in a place where she's very uncomfortable. She just didn't know where to be, and like it would take me a while to slowly get her around the gym. So we'd stick to everything in the program would be catered towards that one corner. Whoever's in that
Yeah.
one corner, bring something to that corner. And now, oh, we're going towards different machines and using barbells and doing different things and slowly integrating different movements. And before we do something, we did it, and she was like, I don't like that. Doesn't make me feel good. Then I'll take that out, bring something else in. But that's the thing with personal training. It's personal to the person. Like, I can create the best program in the world, whatever the best program means. But the best program, if it doesn't work for that person and they're not comfortable and they're not relaxed in terms of they can't actually get themselves mentally into it, means nothing. It's just a piece of paper with just a couple of exercises on it.
That's exactly that is exactly right. The the best trainers that I saw in terms of the and I feel bad saying this because I would assess them from their training knowledge, their exercise selection, the decisions that they were making on in the actual session itself. And so I'm giving them a technical assessment. And there's not many trainers that I observe in commercial gyms anyway that are very good at that. And the most I sort of just now look for, like even doing PT interviews and stuff like that, where people come in and I've got to kind of assess them. It's like I'm not really expecting you to be very good at that side of things. I just need it to be reasonably neutral, where I can see no one's going to get hurt, and that can maybe get built on a little bit later. But it's how much is somebody actually going to like this person and like spending 45 minutes or an hour with this person? And now that's the first thing I'm looking at when I'm assessing a PT for a personal training job. Um, I've watched so many trainers get people signed up, turning up to sessions, and have a quite a long time working with them purely because those individuals just liked turning up and spending an hour with that trainer. And they are exercising and they are doing exercises, so they are benefiting. Whether there's like a clear defined goal and they're actually reaching that goal, I can't speak on that too much. But what I can say is, even in my own experience, when I have had somebody come to me with a very clear defined goal, and let's say they had like a fairly unrealistic expectation, I didn't necessarily challenge them on it. I used to. I don't now, because I know that as long as we get started, you'll keep going. And that's all I need you to do. So if your goal was to build 5 kilos of muscle in 6 months, chances of that happening are extremely low. I'm not going to massively challenge you on that. All I'm hearing is that you want to build muscle.
Yeah.
Got it. Now my next job is to get you started and get you consistent. And if in 6 months' time you haven't built 5 kilos of muscle, guess what? Nobody is ever upset about that, as long as they feel like they've gained more muscle.
Take the t-shirt off, look at themselves in the mirror,
And
oh,
they'll,
wow, I look great.
I look better for
Not
sure.
gonna think back, say, oh, but I wanted 5 kilos of muscle. Oh, this is not working. They look great. So all they think about, all they care about.
They're getting stronger in the gym, and most importantly, they're actually enjoying the process that they're going through with you. They feel supported, they feel reassured, they feel looked after, they feel like they've now got a valuable relationship in their life. These things start to matter a lot more than the actual metric of how much actual muscle was accrued. Me being the way I was, and to some extent still am, I'm going to be like paying real close attention to how much do we actually gain, what percentages has this lift increased, to what have we increased by half a centimeter on this part of your body or whatever. But I just don't vocalize it anymore, because that's not what I'm trying to draw attention to.
Yeah, I think most people, they come in, they're like, I want to, they have their clear defined goals, like I'm gonna do. I don't think they realize sometimes what those goals entail, or they're slightly over ambitious in terms of some people come to, oh, lose 10 kilos in like 2 months. Cool, okay, I don't, like, again, like yourself, I don't say anything. I'm like, okay, cool, just nod my head, all right, cool, okay, let's just get started. Let's just set small targets. Okay, you know what, let's in the first, I don't know, 2 months or month lose X amount. All right, cool, let's just set small, medium, long-term targets so we can get towards where you want to get to, rather than me berate someone and say, oh, that's stupid, or where have you seen that, what are you talking about? Most likely they've seen it on social media, or someone's talking about it, or, oh, I did this and I want to try this diet, I take this supplement, and I was like, don't say anything. I'm sorry, just nod my head. Okay, yeah. Cool. I'm like, before I used to like get into a long ass conversation, try and use scientific papers and try and be really clever and smart about it. I'm like, there's no point, because it's going to go in one ear, out the other. As we work together, then I can slowly drip feed them information and kind of give them certain things they need at a certain time. And then it will slowly, they'll start changing. Like, oh, I didn't realize that. Oh, okay, yeah, that's more realistic. And oh, I wonder why I'm not always tired when I try and lose a bit of weight, and I'm not starving and I don't feel irritable. Oh, I didn't think about this before. And it's just slowly giving them the information they need, rather if I, which I've done before in the past, give them so much information, they just look at me like, wow, what was that? I don't know. And you can see it in their face. And I would, again, oblivious of the young PT, and I want to do all of this. I've gone all these courses and I know all this information. Now it's like, give them what they need at the right time. Otherwise, they're just gonna look at me like, oh, what did he just say? I'm a bit nervous now. No, and they're like just shaking, like a little. You can tell someone looks a bit on edge. Now it's like, let's just take it one day at a time. Let's build you a structure, build your routine, get you moving, get you comfortable. Just for most people, just eating a bit more protein. It doesn't need to be like, I would say probably like 60 to 70% of people just don't eat enough protein, probably don't drink enough water. The sleep is just all over the place. So I think for most just a general gym goers or people just want to stay a little bit healthier, they just don't do the basic stuff in terms of just like looking at their health. They want to try to go from like 0 to 100 and, oh, I want to go on a calorie deficit and I want to do this and this and this and this. Let's slowly just get you doing those three things to start with, and then we can build you up, build you up, build you up. Obviously, there's going to be outliers, and people have very specific goals. I want to get ready for my wedding. I want to do this. So it may need a slightly different approach, but I think for most people, they barely do that, let alone worry about, oh, I'm having, I don't know, for me to build optimal muscle, I need 210 grams of protein. You're not there yet.
I've definitely made that mistake in the past where somebody has come to me with a very specific goal and I've taken them very seriously and thought, okay, great, we'll start getting to work. I'll put a plan together. And then realizing that there's some very foundational behaviors that they just don't even have in place. So they don't even know what foods that they can get protein from. They have no, like, especially on the nutrition side of things, people are generally very underskilled. They have no idea how many calories are in most of the things that they eat, or how much they actually intaking at the moment. They're not very cognizant of what they're eating on a daily basis. Then when it comes to things like sleep, again, it's like they're not necessarily paying that much attention to it. Hydration is another one. And probably the biggest one that I would say I've experienced people have the least amount of self-awareness in is stress. And so when you go, and that seems to underpin everything. So the second you start to talk about stress, there's this immediate thing of, well, I'm all right. I'm not stressed. And it's just like, you're not emotionally stressed right now. I got that. But stress is also mental and physical. And the one that I tend to find people overlook the most is mental stress, i.e., how many things do I actually think about and need to do and get done? And what's my massive checklist that I need to get through? And the difference between somebody being aware of that, being organized, not feeling overwhelmed by the 50 things that they need to get done that day, versus somebody who's just like not got a plan at all, has got a ton of responsibilities that they're kind of almost avoiding, and then they're not acknowledging how that's then contributing to all the unhealthy behaviors that they're engaging with. Why are you staying up so late? Why are you opting to eat more junk food? Why are you smoking? Why are you drinking? Why are you doing drugs, etc., etc.? And a lot of it can come just down to you're looking to make yourself feel better because you're not feeling well. And managing your stress is a massive key driver to begin the process of starting to feel well. Come to the gym, we are managing your physical stress, and it is helping you with your mental stress as well because it's giving you a bit of a break. You're getting that physiological benefit of the endorphin release. Great. But that's accounting for a few hours of your week. And then there's the rest of it. That bit, and this is the bit I'm super curious about at this stage of my career, is how to help people with that bit. Because I'm starting to believe now that if we can help people with that bit, we get a lot less resistance in changing all the other behaviors that are then going to lead to like super positive outcomes. We get lucky sometimes because we get clients that come in and they already have that managed, and we get great outcomes with them. And it's just like, great, I love this. I love working with this person. Then you get the chaotic nightmare individual who's just all over the place. And at every session they come in and they're tired or they're run down or there's some drama going on in their life, and they weren't able to stick to the plan that they agreed to stick to. And it's now, knowing better, I'm not frustrated by it. But for a long time throughout my career, it was very frustrating not being able to move the needle forward with this person. And then also wondering, like, why are you still doing this with me?
Yeah.
Because it's not working. in side note on that, if you are a trainer and you're wondering why, just don't worry about it. The fact that that person is willing to keep turning up and keep trying is enough.
Yeah.
Period. Full stop.
It's about having some of the conversation with someone. Like, again, if somebody comes to see me one to one or even online, I'll do it in like an initial assessment, like a 90-minute assessment. I'll get them to fill out a questionnaire. It's mainly so I can have a conversation and chat with them to see what they're like, to let them explain their questionnaire a little bit more, to do like a movement assessment to see basically where their starting point is in terms of nutrition, in terms of mental, physical stress, in terms of what we can do and where we can start someone, rather than me saying, oh yeah, come in for a session. Today we're going to do a back squat, deadlift, bench press. We're going to do all the exercises and let's just see what happens. I don't think there's like any personal care in that. It's just me trying to be smart and clever and just give someone something they want at the time. But that's not going to really get you to your end goal or see you getting any better in the long term. So I think sometimes I see PTs, they'll get a new client come in and they just start with them. I'm like, so what have you done? There's no forward thinking or planning and even again, it doesn't have to be the most thought out program in terms of somebody doesn't need that at that moment in time. They just need to be able to like move a little bit more, sweat a little bit, feel better about themselves, lift some weights, actually start seeing some change in their habits and stuff. But I think that for me is the most important part for any sort of journey with someone is the initial assessment, because I can actually see and do what I need to actually get them to their goal at that time. And it also builds that rapport and that understanding. So I understand why somebody's out, because sometimes people come in and be like, oh, I'm willing to do X, Y, Z. You have a conversation with them and I'm like, okay, yes, we probably will take a slightly different approach, and I won't tell them that at the time, but we'll get you to where you want to get to, but we may need to veer off that path slightly to start with to get you to that goal. But that's just my job, is to give you the tools you need to get there. It can, again, I've done so many different courses and stuff. I'll probably say I use maybe, I don't know, 40% of what I've done, and it's usually the same stuff that I do over and over and over and over and over again. And I refine it towards the person to get to that point. But it's, yeah, I think what you're touching on is like stress. Most people don't realize how much stress they're under, and they just brush out the rug. Yeah, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. You're tired every day, you've got no energy, you just feel irritated and so forth. But most people don't realize, they don't talk about it because they just find it difficult. They just put barrier up, and I just ask them certain questions. They're like, oh yeah, no, I'm fine. Why you ask me that? That's not important. Like, let's just exercise, let's just train. And I'm like, okay, cool. Then you kind of have an understanding in terms of they may not be ready for that at this moment in time, and then you can build that rapport, relationship, and it gets a little bit easier over time. And then I think that I was the same as yourself. Is like, somebody comes in, they have very specific goals. They're like, I'm willing to do anything. But 3 months down the line, they've not really changed or gotten towards a goal, and it just like beats me up. And I'm just like, I'm like, yourself, data driven numbers. I'm like, nothing's changing. Why is it not changing? And then I realize, I'm like, I probably should have had a bit more of a conversation with them every week, or I probably should have done this. Then that's how you refine your product, your service, you as a PT down the line. Because when I first started, I'm very different to why I'm now. It's very, very different. I worked in different gyms where I had different, the focus is very different than those specific gyms where it's just all about the result. Let's say aftercare and the care throughout may slightly change because you're so fixated on that end result for that person. What goes into that and what you need afterwards that allow them to keep that off or keep doing and keep going forward is important.
I find that, yeah, I think you worked at Ultimate Performance for a while, right?
Yeah.
And like, there's definitely, I've recently come across quite a few ex UP trainers, and there's definitely this sort of like pattern of observation with how they think and how they approach things, and you can kind of tell that they've come from the school of UP. Also, like with yourself, I knew you before you were at UP and so on, and you've had like dozens of different influences from different places. So you're probably a little bit different in that regard. But the ones that are kind of like, that's kind of where they started, that's where they absorbed most of their sort of ethos from. And then yeah, it kind of does get like that. And I'm hopefully I'll get around to talking to a lot of those guys, because I'd be curious to know if now, post UP and even during their time, how much they learned to appreciate that that client's journey is a lot more than the actual metric result, and how much we end up like supporting them in a very different way outside of like, okay, here's 12 weeks, week 1, 2, 3 to week 12, and we've got this great before and after, and we do want that for sure. but we also want to make sure that that person is going to be able to continue doing and living in the way that the healthier way that they've developed throughout that process, and also recognizing some of the unhealthy things that happened to create that 12-week result because it was such a short time frame. And you mentioned earlier about the example of someone wanting to come in and lose 10 kilos in 8 weeks, and that's possible with a very, very aggressive calorie deficit for 8 weeks. Losing just over a kilo a week on average. It's definitely doable. It's just not a sustainable way to live.
It depends on the person. Like, so I've trained like musicians and actors and different people in like entertainment industries. They're like, oh, I'm getting ready for this movie or this tour I'm doing in like 12 weeks or 10 weeks, whatever it may be. For them, it's more about the means to an end. Obviously, my job is not to just be like, let's go to harsh calorie deficit and smash it into the floor. For them, it's all about the look, the visual. They have to look this certain way for them to feel good about themselves. But my goal is to get them to that, but not to. Obviously, you have to. It goes without saying, you have to be in a harsh calorie deficit. You'll probably be doing a bit more output and a bit more movement and exercising a bit more than you usually would. But you can still do that, but not completely just change people's relationship, how they feel about food and exercise. And everyone, the people I might do that with, is they have to kind of be mentally and physically ready to do that, rather than me saying to anyone, oh yeah, you can do this right now. Some people come to me with that goal of, I want to look like this men's health couple model, but I was like, you barely eat enough protein, you barely have enough liquid in your diet, you don't drink enough water, you don't sleep well, your stress levels are all over the place. You may not be the prime candidate for that. You may get to that like down the line if you really want to do that, and that's like your ultimate goal, and you've always wanted to do that. I'll be more than happy to help you get to that point. But at this current stage, I don't think I would say physically, mentally, I don't think you're at that point where we can push you hard enough to get to that point, because it's just gonna take you 10 steps back.
When you meet someone and you assess them, because you know what they're going to have to go through to get there, and you've obviously had to go through that yourself, and you know how challenging it is. You know there is always some level of sacrifice involved. I know, and then there's definitely the side of the industry that maybe sometimes wants to make it out like, oh no, we can do this without you having to give up X, Y, Z. It's like, to an extent, but that you're going to have to give up stuff. And like, I'm a very introverted individual. I don't have that much of a social life, and so it's quite easy for me to follow a routine and to make sure that I've got X amount of things in my fridge and in my food cupboard, and plan out my meals and stick to it, and I've got time to stick it all in my fitness pal and do all that work. I don't use those strategies with most of the people that I work with, because that's just not going to be in line with
It's not realistic.
It's not realistic. People are going out on the weekend, so the variables completely shift there. They go on holiday. Well, I suppose we probably deal with a slightly more affluent client base, so they do go on holiday regularly throughout the year. If you get a 12-week stretch with them, that's actually pretty impressive. But in that 12-week period, they would have had a business trip, or like they had to go to a flight to this place, and so there's all these disruptions that occur. It's just not practical for somebody to be that monk mode with it to achieve this men's health sort of outcome in a 12-week period without making a ton of sacrifices.
You're gonna have to. There's gonna be a lot more sacrifice. I think there's like, well, I tell most people, it's like, I'm like, if that is your ultimate goal or you really want to do that, I'll reverse engineer how long that may take you from where you're at now. Some people are like, you know what, I'm ready. Like, again, specific people, because they have specific goals and time frames, they have to look this way. Then I find it's a little bit easier, because they will be into monk mode, because there's a lot riding on it, and there's a lot more stress will happen if you don't get to that. But for most people, it's difficult, because there are things coming up. There's work events, there's things with family and kids, and frankly, they don't need to go to that level, that degree, to get to lose. If their goal was to lose 5 kilos, to feel a bit fitter, to be a little bit healthier. But if there is that next level of that kind of aesthetic or visual look, then yeah, you will have to make sacrifice. And I think most people don't realize that you have to do those things. Like it's not like, oh yeah, we're gonna eat and fit if it fits your macros and eat whatever you want, and it's not gonna happen. It's just difficult.
It's very difficult. More importantly, it's very difficult to do it in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And so creating a visual look, but then feeling really awful, not just at the end of the process, but throughout the time. I've been there and I've done that, and
Yeah.
I've created that whole look, and I've done it in the most flexible ways that you can think of, and it actually wasn't sustainable. I didn't feel well. It was years of my life where I did not feel well because I wasn't really paying attention to my health. I was being smart and strategic with how to fit indulgences into my lifestyle, whilst trying to achieve physique goals. And fair enough, I was younger, so maybe I was getting away with it a little bit. But in retrospect, I'm 39 now. Like, if I was at 29, which is probably like the first time I ever really got into shape, where I could, see my abs or whatever, men's health look, I would rather have done it with, a more whole food diet, more fruits, more vegetables, better sleep. I was training okay, so I don't really mind that. I would like to have done more cardio at the time, and had a much more well-rounded approach rather than what I was doing at the time, which was winging my nutrition every day, but just trying to make it fit within a certain amount of calories, so weight loss was still occurring. Um, I wasn't really, I'm not even sure if I consumed a vegetable during that time. And things like sleep were like, I probably wasn't sleeping well at all, and there was no cardio happening, and I was definitely engaging in like, I don't know how much I drank during that time. I might not give myself too much of a negative marker on that, but I think definitely if you are 29 years old, the likelihood of you being a little bit more on the excessive end of drinking is, in my experience, yeah, people generally tend to be around that stage of their life. They're starting to like realize they can't recover from it as well as they used to be able to do 5 years prior.
Yeah.
But it's a big barrier to improving somebody's, not just their health, but their physique. I've learned, kind of in line with what we've been talking about, I've learned not to interfere too much with someone's life choices. If they want to go out, if they want to drink, I can give them information, but I'm not gonna like beat them down or judge them or give them a hard time because they went out and had 7 drinks on a Saturday night.
Thing is, it's gonna happen. Like I've got some clients who it's part of their job, part they have to entertain clients and they have to go to events and have to, and then I have to just, my job is to say, okay, this is what you want, this is what you came to me for. For us to get to that point, you probably don't want to go and have 10 drinks and have an absolute bender every single weekend. If you have a couple of drinks, that's great, that's good. Before, I would have been like, you can't do this, you can't drink, it's the worst thing for you, it's going to affect this, and I give them a whole spiel about it. Now I'm like, realistically, I know that's going to happen. So I may tailor their plan or their whatever they're doing towards that because I know it's going to happen. I can't lie to myself and lie to them. They know and I know, yeah, this is probably going to happen. So I think it's realistically thinking and looking at the person and saying, okay, you know what, you want to be able to enjoy a couple of drinks, you want to be able to enjoy that. That's all. That's fine. That's not going to stop you getting to your goal. I think it just also in terms of how important that whole goal or the change they want to see is to them. Because like even I know it's not the same thing to do with fitness, but we were yesterday. I was in Greece yesterday in Athens. We were going up the Acropolis, the big thing that you see. Like,
Yeah.
so basically, I was walking with my fiance and I turned and I was like, there's a 90-year-old woman and she's like trying to walk up and she has 2 sticks and it's like she's like people are trying to help her. She's like, no, it's like, get away from me. She just wants to walk up by herself. And I'm like, we were having a conversation. You're like, it refers to kind of goes back to this a little bit more. It's like, what's important to you? For her, she wants to be able to do things by herself. She wants no one to help her. She doesn't want a wheelchair. There's wheelchair access and there's an access for people who need help. But she's like, I'm doing it. And then it took her a while, but she got up to the top and she wanted to do it by herself. And I was like, that shows that you can pretty much do anything you want to do. It's just whether you actually want to. So sometimes people say come to me and say, what should my goal be? I'm like, I don't, it's not my goal. It's you. What do you want? And I'm like, I can help facilitate you to get to that, but let's break it down. Let's see what we can do to make it realistic and tangible. Because, like you were saying about living in monk mode, most people don't want that. They don't want to ruin the quality of their life just to look like they've got abs. But for what? For a picture for Instagram, for on the beach. Yeah, people will feel good about themselves and people might get compliments. But I'm like, do you want to go all day feeling you got no energy, not sleeping, feeling like a zombie? I've been there like yourself, and yeah, it's not fun. Like there's no joy in coming from like you're just walking around and like someone's talking to you and you're like, what? Sorry, what? And, I think most
It
people think that's what you need to do to look like that, or to look good, or to feel fit. You have to give up all foods. You can't have any sauces. You have to eat chicken, rice, and broccoli. The old bodybuilding, what's it saying, so to speak. But yeah, people think that you have to do that. Like when I speak to people like, I'm going on a diet. What are you having? And they tell me what they're having. They're like, I'm like, okay. I'm like, okay, cool. How's that going for you? They're like, yeah, no, it's okay. And I'm like, are you enjoying it? No, I hate it. So why are you doing it exactly?
it is definitely the image that has been created for most people
Yeah.
of you basically have this super bland diet. You cut out all these things and you become this very sort of strict, rigid person that follows this very strict, rigid routine, which nobody does, by the way. Like I used to train people for bodybuilding shows,
Yeah.
and I trained like quite a large number and large variety of individuals. And I came across like two people during like the 5 years that I did it that if you gave them an exact plan, they wouldn't veer from it once, and they were like just constantly stuck on that thing. And until you told them to change something, they wouldn't change anything. Every single other person would remix the plan somehow,
Mm.
or it wasn't sustainable for them to stick to it in a very difficult way. And that was me. I was a flexible individual. So I wasn't even the person giving them
I
the.
was the opposite. I work with like different coaches for different things in the past. They give me a plan, stick to it. Don't veer, nothing to the ground. That's me as a person.
You were one of those
Yeah,
individuals
yeah,
for sure, right? And so, but that's very uncommon.
yeah,
Um, it's arguably very autistic.
probably yeah.
I certainly identify as somebody on the spectrum, and one of the reasons why I'm able to do things like that is because I will take everything very literally,
Mm,
and I'm very number focused, and I'm like, right, this has to happen in this very specific way, otherwise I'm gonna like completely lose myself, right? Whereas most people aren't like that, and they're not projecting who I was and my approach onto others, kind of being like, okay, uh, you're going to color outside of the lines quite often. I'm not going to give you a hard time about that. And, reducing the quality of their life is increasing their stress. And if their stress goes up, their ability to adhere to healthy behaviors goes down. So we're actually being counterproductive, not giving them a hard time for some of the choices that they make that work against their goal, employing compassion, and that's actually evidence based, that it works better when you employ compassion towards somebody than when you give them the harsh truth. And I observe many, many, many trainers in our industry, not just online, but with their clients, because they are frustrated and they are really passionate and they do want to get the goal. And they're constantly telling their clients off for, their behaviors and the weekends and not sticking to the plan. And for those individuals, it's like if you can just relax a little bit, pull back, let your client make all those like mistakes, what you'll find is over time, they as a human will naturally course correct themselves.
yeah.
You just needed to be patient. But the more you go in and more you apply pressure, the less likely that is to happen. And it's a really, really curious and interesting human behavior trait that I've observed.
It kind of goes back like if you start putting in labeling stuff good and bad. So you say something, oh, that's very bad. You should never do that. It's like a child. It's like, bad. Don't do it. Don't do it. Either they're gonna want to do it more, or they're just gonna have that idea in their head of, oh my god, that PT told me that's really bad. I've had some people come to me now and say, oh my PT said this from like 5 years ago. This is really bad. I should never do it. And I'm like, what, eating fruit is bad for you? And they're like, yeah, you should never eat fruit in the first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. Or as an example, I'm like, okay, where did they get that from? Like, oh no, they told me that's it. I never do it now. Or like somebody, I think they had the same breakfast every day for like 6 years because their PT told them some like wacky story about it. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not gonna berate them or laugh at them. I'm like, oh, cool. So let's try something different. Let's see what happens. Let's figure it out. Let's see, try a different breakfast. See if anything changes in your body, or you feel any less energetic, or you feel better, or you feel fuller. Well, again, try different things, and oh wow, nothing changed. What a surprise! But then people will have this idea and keep it and stick to it. You'll tell them something once, and if they really trust you or believe you, or like they think you're an authority figure, they'll listen to it. They're like, yeah, but my PT told me this 10 years ago or 5 years, whatever it may be. And they're like, I'm like, cool. My PT said I should never squat this way, or I should never do this, or I should never do that, or I saw this online. And I'm like, okay, cool. So there's a lot of like so much information that sometimes you just get, like, I get people come to me and say, okay, XYZ, and ask me questions. And I'm like, okay, cool. That's not inherently wrong or inherently bad or inherently good, but let's think about different ways of approaching this
I
conversation.
think it's important to try and move away from absolute
Yeah.
statements. I am tremendously guilty of absolute statements, and there's people that I would have at some point in time said not necessarily the fruit thing, but something along those lines, or like within an exercise to never do it that way. And I have had people come back up to me like years later, like yeah, like I remember you told me, so I never do it. And I'm just there like, oh,
Mm.
forget what I just told you. I'm really sorry, because that was my understanding at the time. My understanding is involved, and even those people that are telling you, oh, my PT told me 5 years ago, probably that PT has changed their stance on the fruit
Yeah.
thing, but the damage
So,
is done.
so many do. Like, I remember I'll be like, oh yeah, no, I can't have any carbs because I'm not 9% body fat on my subscap, which is behind my shoulder blade. And like, okay, if I measure that and it's like 10.2, I can't have any carbs. I have to still keep dieting for it. Like when I'm not under 9%, then I can have carbs. Or if this measurement is here or that's there, or I'm like, and I look back and I'm like, I'd have to have like 40 BCA branch amino acid tablets in a session or I won't get the full effect of the protein spike. And I'm like, I look back and I'm like, what the hell was I doing? I spent so much money and so much time on absolute drivel. And I look back and I'm like, okay. But then you look, it's one of those things. Like, I tell most of my clients, I've tried most diets and most approaches and most training plans and most things on myself. Again, me and you are very different. This may work for you, this may not work for me. So I've done years of guinea pigging stuff on myself to give you a bit more of an insight in terms of what may happen or what may occur. You may find a different approach based around your body type, whatever, your psychological makeup. But just to let you know, these are the side effects, or this is what might happen if you try this. If you really want to try it, by all means, go for it. I'm not going to stop you, but I can guarantee you XYZ will happen. I've had some clients before. I think one client, she wanted to try an egg only diet,
Okay.
just eggs, nothing else, no eggs, no fruit, no veg, nothing, just eggs 3 times a day. And I was like, okay, cool. She's like, do you have anything to say? I was like, no, try it, go for it. She's like, are you sure? You're very adamant you want to try it. By all means, go try it. 2 days in, she came to me on I think it was Monday, Wednesday, we're training. She came to me, was like, I hate this diet. Why didn't you stop me? I told you this is going to probably happen, but you didn't listen to me. So I'm like, you tried it. Did you like it? She was like, no, I hate it. I'm miserable. I'm cranky. And I was like, cool. So let's try something different. Let's figure out a plan that will work for you. So this next time, probably don't listen to stuff on social media. It may not work. So again, I've tried different approaches with different people. And sometimes now I'm just like, you know what? If you really want to try it, again, big one is intermittent fasting. If you want to really try intermittent fasting, try it. If it works for you, great. We can do things to make it a bit better and polish it up a little bit more so you feel better and your energy is better and you feel like you're making progress in the gym. But if you really, really want to do it and you saw, I don't know, my influencer said it's great, give it a go. Give it a couple of weeks, see how it works, see if it works for you. If it doesn't, then let's try a different approach. Let's sit down and maybe figure out something better.
Yeah, I think deep down, like I'm thinking about one client in particular who she reminds me a lot of the stories that you've been talking about today. Even right now, sitting here today, she's currently like engaging in some sort of wild, um, I don't know, influencer diet that she's come across to do these little sachets that you drink or take, and she's sort of super into fasting and stuff like that. And she'll discuss these things with me, and I've given her my take on it, more than once. And I got to a point with her where I was just like letting her do stuff. And because I get so much more information from her about her lifestyle
And
changes and her job, this, that, whatever, like I kind of know what's really going on relative to what she's actually registering is going on. And what tends to happen is you've just got somebody who's stopped doing a bunch of unhealthy things and started doing a bunch of healthy things. And the sort of veil on top of that is this nutritional approach that they've discovered. But underlying is they inadvertently switched from like more, let's say, less nutrient dense foods to more nutrient dense foods in the window that they're eating, or they're engaging with being more active, or they've reduced the amount. Basically, they became more health conscious and they started making more health conscious decisions, and then they attribute their feelings of wellness to this method that they took. And that used to really, really bother me back in the day, because I'm like, I know what's really going on, and you think it's this. Now I'm just like, the only thing that matters is that you're feeling better and you're engaging in more health conscious behaviors. And then, given that person a long enough time span, they will eventually acknowledge that as well. And that gave me a lot of confidence to realize, if I'm just patient and all I do is monitor, how are you feeling? How is that going? Yeah, it's great. I lost 2 kilos. I feel like this, that. Awesome. Wonderful. They are not idiots most of the time. They're just having a moment.
Yeah.
And if you can just be patient with them, they'll eventually acknowledge for themselves, like, yeah, I was also drinking less. I stopped smoking for a while. I was being more active. I made a bit more of an effort to get to bed, and there was less stress going on at work. I was making a bit more of an effort to eat this, more nutrient dense foods. Uh, Eventually and I've gone through this same process myself. Like, subjectively, we struggle to sometimes acknowledge when we're working against ourselves and when we're doing things well. Um, I've fallen down these sort of like rabbit holes of trying to be hyper specific or look for like these very technical solutions to things of, mate, you just need to get to bed earlier, or you just haven't been drinking enough, or
Having this supplement or this full head up, I'm doing this. And like, even when I was like, what, 24, 25, 26, very like hyper focused towards, I have to have this much protein, I have to train this much, I have to do this, I can't go out, I can't go. I was like, I had loads of friends who would be social, but like, they go like, oh, we're going out now to a club or a bar. I know I can't go. In my head, I'm like, oh, I'm tired, I need to go home, I've got a client tomorrow. But in my head, oh god, calories, drink, oh my god, I can't have that, oh my god, it's gonna defer me from my plan, oh, I can't do it. Now I'm like, I go out probably every weekend with friends. I want to drink, I'll have one drink, I can stop. If I don't want to drink, I won't drink. I can just easily be like that. Before, it would literally be in my head, it'd be some weird complex, and I'd be like, no, I can't do that, oh my god, I can't, oh my god, there's a meal there, oh, I can't eat food. And like, you learn over time, you kind of change the way you're thinking about stuff and the way you train people or you train yourself. And you try different things before, and be like, even with cardio, oh my god, I can't do too much cardio, I'm gonna lose all my gains and I'm not gonna have any muscle and I'm gonna get weaker in the gym. In hindsight, you look back and I was like, yeah, what was I doing there? That's a bit stupid of me. But it's an ever changing cycle, even with training and like talking to clients and just communicating with different people. Like, as a PT, you should evolve rather than just be stuck on one thing. I've seen some PT just stuck on one thing, they don't change, they don't differ. This is the only way to do it. Just look who you're talking to and have a conversation with the person, rather than say, you have to do this, you have to train like this, you have to do that, you have to count your macros. Some might get to a point where they feel comfortable to count the macros. They might do it for 1 day, 1 week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever it may be. But it takes time, and you have to look at that person and discover, are they able to do it? Would they be willing to do it? And does it ultimately fit their lifestyle? Because I train people in like fashion and entertainment. For them, their initial goal always is to be skinny, to look skinny, to feel small, to look small, to fit into clothes. Because a lot of fashion brands and houses, their clothes are tiny. I've tried to fit into some and I'm just like, who is wearing this? And it's like an extra large, and I'm like, I'm about to repent this. But for them, they don't care about the means to get to that, I want to be skinny. They just want to be skinny.
yeah.
So my goal is to try and give them bits and bobs where they can be like, okay, just make sure you're having this, make sure you're having that. Because if we do too much volume in the gym on a certain body part, or if we get them to eat a bit more, they will feel slightly different. They may get a little bit more muscle tone. They're like, no, I'm too big, I need to lose weight, I can't do this anymore, I need to stop, I need to change, I need to eat 1 meal a day. But it's just, again, you have to manage the client to, ultimately for me, is to get them healthier, fitter, stronger, but to try and break the mold of things they've got in their head. Because if I told them, you're wrong, this is stupid, this is bad, don't do this, barrier blocked off, no one listen to me anymore, and I'll probably lose that client down the line.
That is exactly what happens.
Yeah.
And yeah, like again, I've done it hundreds of times over. I've made that mistake I'm probably still at times making that mistake today, but I just kind of catch myself doing it, and like I just stop. I'm like, this is not helpful. This is not constructive. Um, and exactly that. You like having that compassion. This is who you are. This is what you want. It's not for me to tell you, what your desires should be. I just need to make sure that this happens in a way that causes you the least amount of damage. And whenever you evolve into the next version of yourself, I'll be there to support you in that version too. It is really hard to watch sometimes people make decisions that are detrimental to their health because the external thing that they value is greater than managing their health really well. And certainly there's a bit of a contradiction there because working with people in bodybuilding, there is something very like inherently unhealthy that happens in that situation, um, namely the drug use. And it's a weird one because my mindset switches. We're still really thinking about how to be healthy, but trying to be healthy alongside this thing that's very evidently damaging your health.
Yeah.
And in that scenario, because there's this thing of like wanting to win the competition, wanting to turn pro, wanting to compete at the Olympia or whatever, you're now in your mindset now becomes very much like the example client that we would have mentioned of like they want to be able to fit into this mold that is important to them. And it's the same thing in bodybuilding. How much do you judge anyone?
A lot comes with it. It's like in bodybuilding, if I don't win the show, if I'm not the leanest, I'm not the best, I'm not going to get this sponsorship, I might not get into this competition. Same thing with that is if I'm not the skinniest, I don't look the smallest, I don't look the best, I'm not going to get signed up to this brand or this promotion or this wherever it may be. It's always that at the back of the head. So it's managing that level of stress with what we do, and it's a never ending cycle. It's like my job is managing all of that and just making sure they are fitter and healthier, and there's like using metrics in terms of, for them it may not be how big are my arms or how much can I bench press. It could be like, oh, you know what, am I running a 5K and not feeling out of breath? Is it I'm sleeping 8 hours a night and I'm feeling energetic in the morning? Am I feeling like I've got energy throughout the day? Will be very different to some people. Like, I just want to get a massive chest. The bodybuilders, they're everyone's goal will be slightly different, and what they achieved assumed to be important to them. And then our job as a PTI, especially if I put myself and the clients I have, is that get them to that goal, but also manage these things along the way so they're feeling happy and content. And then generally speaking, you will get people will start praising you and referring you and talking about you because you're doing a good job, and they like really value what you're doing. And that for me is the most important thing. Is like, as long as people value what they're doing, what we're doing together, and they see the change and they feel the change. I think the most important thing for most people is change. If they visually or feel it in themselves, they will just tell everyone. They'll be like, oh, I feel so good, I feel great, my sleep is great, my energy is great. And again, I think sometimes visually also, if sometimes people are losing weight, I think this is the one thing I get with a lot of clients is they're like, I don't look any different, I don't feel any different, I look exactly the same. That's why I'll do before and after pictures or pictures along the way, because pictures are one of those things that you can actually tell. It's not for me to post on Instagram. I don't really care about that. I was like, I'm going to do a photo shoot with a client. I've done that before in the past. Someone to do that, it may be a good springboard for people. But for me, it's just more so, look at where you started, look at where you are now. Can you see a difference? They're like, oh, wow, I didn't notice I look like that. Oh my God, that's amazing. But for them, it's just like to spur them on, because when you get spurred on, you get more excited about it. There's only so much motivation you can take. People are motivated at the start, they see change, and that can just take them to the next level, next
Yeah.
level, next level, and they start getting more into it, more excited about it. But that, I find pictures are massive, because weight is one of those things. Is like you're 78 kilos or you're 76 kilos.
It fluctuates as
Yeah,
well.
it fluctuates all the time. Water, sleep, stress, not going to the toilet, having more salt, more carbs, or all these things may potentially fluctuate, especially for women, time of the month, where they're on the cycle. All these things will fluctuate your weight. If you're 76 or 78 or 79 kilos, you can't tell that much of a difference.
Yeah, it's really interesting actually. You're right about the picture thing. I actually moved away from the picture thing a long time ago just because I was trying to manage expectations because I was meeting people and I could tell who they were and where they were at. The likelihood of them engaging in the behaviors that would lead them to the outcomes that they wanted was actually quite low.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm not going to then add that pressure of like,
Yeah.
we're going to take a picture and then, in 12 weeks you're going to see the picture again and it's going to be like not that much different. And I'm kind of like maybe harshly assessing someone's ability to change. Uh, what I did tend, and also I was maybe trying to avoid people that were so aesthetic focused because I'd done that for a long time with bodybuilding stuff, and I was like, I'm now moving more towards like strength, performance, function as you age. And so I got a little bit more into just filming people doing exercises and focusing on their strength metrics. And just listening to you there, and even when I think about myself, I'm like, do you know what though? The picture thing is, it does that from a behavioral standpoint, from a motivation standpoint. It is just so potent. It is super powerful. Like it does actually want people, make people want to just like jump into it even further and take it to the next level. And um, I'm always kind of reconsidering whether I should be reintroducing the picture thing, not with everyone, but
Yeah,
with
it works for some people. For some people, for them, it's like I know the people who are really motivated by that, who like it's their drive. They want to look better, and I'll use that as a at the right time. Like, so I'm not gonna do it after a week and say, "Oh, can you notice a difference?" They'll be like, I probably can in terms of position of their shoulder blades, where their hips are lying, where their position of their posture and their ribs. And for me, it's important because I can see stuff. They're like, yeah, it looks exactly the same. There's no difference. But if I do it for between like week 1 to week 6 or week 4, whatever it may be, if people are really sticking to it and they're making commitment, they're seeing changes. Okay, yeah, they will see a change. They're like, oh wow, look at the difference in my stomach. But for some people, it's like the woman I mentioned at the beginning who was nervous in the gym. Pictures for her means nothing. For her, it's like, how do your clothes feel? Or are you losing weight on the scale? Because initially, when she was slightly larger, there will be a change on the scale. So for her, that is important, the metric. But again, I still had to kind of change the idea in her head of like, you don't have to be losing 3-4 kilos every week. Initially you may lose a little bit more, then it may be like, I don't know, half a kilo to a kilo a week from where you're at now. That's realistic. And then she was like, when she jumped on the scale and it wasn't 2 kilos, she'd get down being like, oh, I'm not done well this week and it's really bad and I need to do better. No, you've lost a kilo. That's really good. She's like, no, it's not enough. No, trust me, it's enough. It's more than enough. That's the way we need to be right now. And after, as the time went on, and she built a rapport with me, and the relationship improved, then she realized, oh, I've lost 0.7 of a kilo. That's really good. Okay, we're making change. Initially, that's the thing, was when it comes to unrealistic expectation, people will come in the first like 6 weeks and they've not lost that 6 kilos they've got in their head. Oh, I only lost 3 or 4 kilos. That's not good enough. But look at these pictures. Yeah, no, but still not 6 kilos. Okay, cool. So then I just have to change that relationship and have a different conversation. But all these things are important. Like I also firm believer in there's no point just like kind of losing body fat, weight, and not getting any stronger or any fitter. So I'll have different metrics, so performance metrics, visual metrics in terms of, okay, and I tell people, some people come to me like, I want to be able to do a chin up, a deadlift, whatever it may be. I want to run a 5K without being tired. I'll have that all in my thinking in terms of a program, in terms of who the person is. It's almost like I'm doing a half marathon, I want to get fitter. That might be slightly different to someone saying, I just want to be able to jog for 10 minutes. But I think it's important because it's also motivating to see people, for some people to see themselves getting stronger, the flexibility
100%.
improving, rather than just me saying, we're just going to focus on weight. Because it's,
I think it's very important for, you know, everybody, even if you're just training yourself, to appreciate how you're measuring your progress and also your own sort of psychological response to how you're measuring your progress. If something is having a negative impact on you, it's probably the the benefit is not outweighing the cost. So if seeing your weight fluctuate is having a negative impact on you, maybe measuring your weight isn't the best way to go about it. If measuring the aesthetic appearance of your body through pictures is having a negative impact on you, then maybe that's not the best way to go about it. But if it's having a positive impact, if you can say like, yeah, this is driving me forward, um, then great. Even with measuring lifts, it's like
some people care, some people don't.
some
But like
people
I really, well, I'm lifting 12, 40.
completely ambiguous.
Yeah, makes no difference. Am I seeing a change visually, in terms of that? Yeah, great, cool. We're lifting whatever. Some people do care a little bit more. So it's about, even with pictures and like weight, I'll ask people before we start. I'm like, cool, are you happy doing X, Y, Z? Or I'll try and get an idea into what the mind is like in terms of pictures, in terms of weight, in terms of all these things. I'll ask questions and, are you happy to do this? No, I really don't want to. Then I'm not going to force you to do it. I know it's even pictures. I've got other PTs I work with in the past and places I work with, pictures, you have to do pictures. You have to. There's no like, not the person doesn't want, I don't care, you have to do them. And then the person generally knows they're gonna have to do pictures of because of where the place is. But I'm just like, now, are you happy to do it? It's not gonna go on social media. It's not gonna go anywhere. It's just for us so you can see progress. Some are like, yeah. Some like, no, I actually don't want to. I'm like, cool. We won't use that for
Mm.
now. Later on down the line, we might because you may get a bit more comfortable. But for now, it's important. But it just, again, same thing goes with communication, rapport, and managing expectations. I think even with something on the flip side of things, even like as PTs, you may go out certain places and people ask you questions. Oh, you're a PT, and what's the best exercise to do this, and what's the best nutrition approach? I got before. Oh, so you're a PT, so you don't eat any carbs then? What are you talking about? It's like, oh no, but you're a PT, so you must have a very low carb diet, and you must eat only protein. You must not drink. And if I'm having a glass of wine, oh my god, you drink? Oh, I can't believe you drink. Oh, what's going on? Oh, how can you be drinking? Because you're still a human being. I think it just, even on the flip side of things, just people have expectations which I don't know where they get, but you're just like, okay, cool. That's how so people think about stuff.
I think it's yeah, it's a very weird phenomenon for sure. Tarek, mate, it's been really good having you on.
My pleasure.
I think we touched on quite a bit of stuff there, to be fair, and it's definitely been a really good conversation. I didn't exactly know where we were going to take this, and I usually do. But in your case, there was so many things that we could have discussed because I've known you for such a long time, and you kind of touch on so many things even through your own content. That it was sort of like hard to pinpoint. Like, okay, I'm gonna go with these two or three subjects, and I'm actually really, really, really happy we got to discuss the things we got to discuss today because a lot of that is actually stuff that I think people do need to be hearing. People do need to get that insight and to understand um, how we basically approach their journeys and how they can approach their journeys as well. If you are looking for Tarek, don't worry, I will be putting all of his social media handles and contact information in the description, so you can get in touch with him and maybe get your picture taken.
Exactly. I think for most people, it's like, don't be afraid. Like, even if social media is like, don't be afraid to ask someone a question. Don't be afraid to reach out if you have questions about working with someone or you like what they do. Just, again, there's nothing wrong. If some people will inquire with me and I'm like, this is how I do things. This is my approach. This is what I want to do. Let's have a conversation. Come and meet me. You're under no obligation. You're not forced to do it. It's not, you're not locked into a jail. Like, you can leave. But just don't be afraid to ask questions.
It's free to chat.
Yeah, exactly.
Wicked. All right.
Lovely.